Hey Kipsters, it's Mrs. Walsh. This week we're reading another book about dinosaurs. The title of our book for this week is How Big Were the Dinosaurs? Before we get started reading our text, I want to go over a couple of details that are important to know while we read. So the first thing is that the author of this text is actually also the illustrator. So when I talk about the author, I may refer to him as the author and illustrator. In this text, the author is teaching us facts about the size of dinosaurs and uses the illustrations and comparisons to teach us those facts. So the author will describe a dinosaur's size and then give us something that it is compared to. If you can see in the picture on this page, the dinosaur in this picture is being compared to the size of a school bus. So the illustrations today are going to give us a lot of information about how big the dinosaurs were. We have 3 new vocabulary words for our text this week. The first word is the word peaceful. Peaceful means that you are not violent or calm. I chose this picture of a mom and her daughter doing yoga because yoga is often a very calm and peaceful time. Our next vocabulary word is the word sturdy. If something is sturdy, it means it is solidly built. I picked this picture of a step stool because we know that step stools are very sturdy, and things made of wood are often described as being sturdy because they're built in a solid way and they are very strong. The last word for today's text is the word hollow. Hollow is when something has a hole or an empty space inside. We often talk about logs as sometimes being hollow. The one in this picture is a hollow log because there's an empty space inside. That's why we can see from one end to the other through the middle of the log. It's hollow. We know that all good readers identify the genre and the thinking jobs before they get started reading a text. This story is a non-fiction story, even though the illustrations and the text are going to look a lot like a fiction text. We talked last week about how since dinosaurs aren't alive anymore and they've been extinct for a very long time, we don't have actual pictures of them. The author and illustrator of this text made the pictures super silly when showing comparisons between dinosaurs and objects. Even though the illustrations are very silly, the text is still giving us details and giving us facts about how big the dinosaurs were. In today's lesson, the focus is that we're going to use the information from the illustration and the text, so the words, to understand more about dinosaurs. All right, we're going to get started with page 1. It's hard to imagine how big some of the dinosaurs really were. Some dinosaur footprints that have been found are so big, you and a couple of friends could stand in one of them. Just how big were the dinosaurs? Tyrannosaurus rex was so big, some of its teeth were as big as your toothbrush, more than 7 inches long. I wonder how many tubes of toothpaste it would take to brush this monster's teeth. I want you to look at the illustration and think about this page. How does the comparison of a T-Rex tooth to a toothbrush help us better understand the dinosaur's size? When I think about this question, if I know that every single one of the dinosaur's teeth was about as big as a toothbrush, that kind of helps me imagine just how big the head of a T-Rex would have to be to fit all of those teeth inside. Triceratops was so big, its head was bigger than your front door. Even though this plant eater was one of the most peaceful dinosaurs, I don't think your mother would want it inside your house. Now that we've read a couple of pages and seen a couple of illustrations, why do you think the author includes these silly sentences on each page? We know that a dinosaur would never come inside of a house, so why would the author make a joke about that happening? When I think about these questions, I know that the author wanted to make this text really fun and make sure that the readers enjoyed learning these facts. I think the author includes these silly comparisons and these silly illustrations to make the text more fun to read and to help readers better understand. I had no idea what a triceratops size was like, but when the author describes it as his head being the same size as my front door, that helps give me an idea of just how big the dinosaur is. The author gave me those facts in a very silly way. Stegosaurus was so big it was about 50 ducks long. It was one of the biggest duck-billed dinosaurs ever found. I bet it could make the loudest quack ever. I did not know how to pronounce the name of this dinosaur because I'd never heard of it before, but when you look in the very first line of the text in parentheses, you see where the author has made a pronunciation for the reader. I followed that pronunciation and I broke down the word into chunks and then put it back together to have the full name of the dinosaur. Try it on this page. See if you can say the name of this dinosaur using the pronunciation. How did you do? Did you get it? I know I'm not a dinosaur expert, so these pronunciations really help me when I'm reading this text. Stegosaurus was so big, the plates on its back were larger than a school crossing sign. With all those protective plates, Stegosaurus would be a perfect crossing guard. Dinosaurus was so big, its arms and hands together were 9 feet long. Since that was all scientists ever found of this dinosaur, I wonder how much bigger the rest of it was. Wouldn't it be nice to have an extra pair of helping hands that size around your house? Hypsilosaurus was so big, its eggs were the size of a hen. Even though this barn-sized plant eater was smaller than many other dinosaurs, its eggs were some of the biggest dinosaurs ever found. Do you think eggs that big would fit in an egg basket? Supersaurus was so big it was longer than a supermarket aisle. I bet this gigantic plant eater would have no trouble finding the vegetable section. How about calling this dinosaur Supermarketsaurus? I want you to take a look at this illustration and think about the words. What silly comparison did the author make here on these 2 pages? You can write your comment in the comment box below the video or just share it with someone at your house. What was the comparison the author illustrator made here? Ankylosaurus was so big it was bigger than a school bus. This sturdy plant eater was covered with armor and weighed more than 5 tons. Wouldn't you feel safe going to school on an enormous dinosaur bus? Allosaurus was so big it was bigger than a bulldozer. This meat eater's jaws were hinged so it was able to swallow large chunks of meat. Whenever I see the powerful jaws of an earth-eating machine, I think of Allosaurus. Why do you think the bulldozer is a good comparison to the Allosaurus on this page? When I think about this question, the author describes the Allosaurus as being bigger than a bulldozer, but it also describes the meat eater's jaws. When I think about the top of a bulldozer where it grabs dirt or other objects to pick up and move, the bulldozer also has a hinge the same way an Allosaurus's mouth has a hinge. So I think the author used the bulldozer to help us imagine the Allosaurus eating and also imagine how large an Allosaurus was. Apatosaurus was so big, at 1 month old, it was bigger than a baby's crib. I bet it wasn't easy to babysit a 6-foot-long, 75-pound baby Apatosaurus. Parasaurolophus was so big, the hollow tube at the top of its head was longer than a trombone. Some scientists think it blew air through this tube to make horn-like sounds. I wonder how it would have sounded in a school concert. I want you to think about this page and answer the question, what is silly and unique about the dinosaur we met on this page? This dinosaur is different from any of the other ones that we've read about so far. What was different about it and what's silly and unique? You can either type your comment in the box below the video or share it with someone in your family. We've now made it halfway through our text. Miss Rondo is going to read the rest of the text on her video on Thursday. So if you can't wait, go ahead and watch her video to finish learning more about how big the dinosaurs were. I have a couple of questions I want you to think about as we wrap up today's video. If we tried to compare the Supersaurus to something different, can you think of anything that is as long as a supermarket aisle that we could use to compare it to? If so, type your comment in the box or share your comment with someone in your family. I also want us to think back to the picture from page 3. How did this picture and the comparison to a toothbrush help you understand the size of a T-Rex? You can also type your comment in the comment box or share it with someone in your family. The author-illustrator of this text did a great job of using pictures to help us understand how big the dinosaurs were. Make sure you watch Ms. Rondo's video on Thursday to learn about even more dinosaurs and their sizes. Thanks for reading along today.